Welcome along to 98 Not Out. I've just managed to secure, with zero notice, an interview with one of my cricketing heroes. Remember, if you like the content of this podcast, give it a like, tell your friends, and let's get into a chat with none other than Mr. Kumar Sangakkara. Kumar, it's a great honour to have you here. Where do I start with you? I'll be completely honest, you're one of my cricketing heroes going back a long time, and in many
Thank you
ways,
very much.
MCC member. So was very pleased to see you recently as MCC president. I thought that was a big moment for cricket lovers. And as I speak to you, you're at Lord's enjoying a fantastic day of Test cricket.
Yeah, it's been brilliant, at least for England. They started off really well yesterday in terms of their bowling and their batting's just a juggernaut at the moment, and they put Ireland under tremendous pressure. They're running away with the game at a canter in terms of the scoring rates. Duckett, just falling short of a double hundred, Pope on 100. It's been really good to see, and the weather's been beautiful. There's lots of people here and children here watching Test cricket, so it's been lovely.
Yeah, it's good that during the school holidays that there are lots of kids there. That's a really important thing to see. And Lord's on a day like this is fantastic. And I'm gathering from comments on commentary that a good lunch was had as usual at Lord's.
Yeah, I'm sure the players definitely have a great choice for lunch. Every visiting team, loves the whole atmosphere of Lord's, the history, the long room that you walk through to get out onto the pitch, and just the whole sense of occasion that it has. And the Ireland players were talking a lot about it in their pre-match interviews about what a special occasion it was, what a huge amount of pride they take in representing Ireland in Test cricket here at Lord's or in any Test match, but especially here at Lord's. And the lunch helps as well.
I remember I was there for one of my personal magic moments at Lord's was watching you score 100, and with your good friend Mahela at the other end. Tell us about that moment.
Yeah, 2014, my last tour to England in terms of a Test cricketer before I retired, and I was pretty much adamant to try and get 100. It's eluded me for quite a long time, and to be able to finally get it, Mahela's got already had 200s here at Lord's, but to be able to get my name on the honours board, and it was an exciting Test match. We drew it off the last ball, really, with our last man edging it a couple of inches short of Chris Jordan at slip. It's all in all a great tour, really. We went on to Headingley, and we managed to win again off, I think, the last over, the penultimate ball of the last over of the Test match, where we had James Anderson caught at Leg Gully. So it was a great tour, great memories, and it was lovely to finish my last Test tour of England with that 100, and it really was pleasing and satisfying.
It was a huge moment, and I think I've never seen so many smiling faces all around the crowd at Lord's. I think everyone enjoyed that moment with you.
I had a huge amount of support from members, from Sri Lankan fans, plus English cricket fans. It was a great sense of occasion for me.
Yeah, I've got one of your signed shirts. You can't see it here, but on my wall here, I've got a signed shirt from 2011 when you batted at Lord's, which you donated to the Murali Foundation, and there was a wonderful dinner. To celebrate. At that time, it was 20 years since Sri Lankan cricket had sort of reached Test status, and quite a journey. And I think really the '96 World Cup was what really fired Sri Lankan cricket. It turned white ball cricket on its head, that World Cup victory. Some legends of the game in that side, and then you and Mahela sort of came along in the wake of all that and propelled it to even greater things.
I think we had a great history of cricket in Sri Lanka, from our pre-Test era to the World Cups in '75 and beyond. And we had that kind of first-class structure, that heritage that really kind of embedded itself in our culture. I think it was only after 1996, just before, I would probably say 95, 96, was when we really identified a singular brand of cricket that really resonated with Sri Lankans to play and to embrace, just like England has done now under McCullum and Stokes. For us, it was a very defining period, 90, 95, 96 and beyond, where once we embraced that brand of cricket and the freedom that came with it and the identity that came with it, we really became a kind of a world power in every format of the game. Test status in 1981 and just 15 years later to win a World Cup, and in the manner in which we did was incredible to watch. I was one of the youngsters watching it and being inspired by it. I was just shy of 20 years old when that happened, and every Sri Lankan and all Sri Lankans are cricket fans would definitely remember that moment with absolute clarity, where they were, what they were doing, who they were watching with, and how they celebrated Arjun Ranatunga running it past third man for the winning runs. And then we were always left with great players beyond that as well. I mean, Aravinda continued into the early 2000s. Arjuna finished in my debut tour in Sri Lanka. We had Atapattu, we had Jayasuri, who revolutionized, the 15 over fielding restrictions in one-day cricket. Harshan Tilakaratne, so many greats, Murali, Vas, and of course Mahela, who had just made his debut after the 96 World Cup. So it's a great side to play in. And as we went along, we kind of raised our internal benchmarks as well in terms of what we wanted to achieve, how we wanted to win away from home. And from 2003, after that really horrific defense of our World Championship in 1999 under Arjuna, after having won under him in 1996, really set the trend for younger players and for a new revolution in Sri Lankan cricket. And from 2003 until 2011 and then on to 14, we were consistently high performers in World Cups in every format.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was your incredible speech that you gave to MCC at the Calgary Spirit of Cricket lecture. I've been to all of these lectures for the past 15, 20 years, but the one that you gave just absolutely stuck in my mind. And the standing ovation that you rightfully received, I think was it 10 minutes or so after you'd finished speaking. And even Mark Nicholas was dumbfounded. I've never seen Mark Nicholas lost for words. It's a very powerful speech, in particular, your very emotional account of what happened on that tour bus in Pakistan that time. But you spoke about it from a positive point of view, and your speech was uplifting. Did you intend it to be that way? Did you sort of prepare for that kind of a speech, and how did the reception affect you?
I think I was first approached by the late Christopher Martin Jenkins. He was president of MCC at the time, and I refused him, saying that it'd be very difficult for me to deliver the lecture, especially being on tour in England at the time, preparing for the tour, and with all that was going on, plus the importance of that kind of lecture in terms of the calendar at Lord's. But he was very persuasive, and I said yes. And I had my father and my manager, Charlie Austin, help me to set my lecture and to construct it and structure it properly. And I just wanted to speak about the spirit of cricket in terms of how I viewed it as a Sri Lankan, how it affected Sri Lankans, how I grew up with it, and all the political turmoil, all the social positives, the spirit of the Sri Lankan people that, through good times and bad, have always seen each other through, and how that related to the way we played cricket, including the attack on the bus when we were in Pakistan, and beyond that, and looking forward, how amazingly fortunate I was to be Sri Lankan, part of our culture, part of our history and tradition, not just in cricket, but also as a people. And I think that was what I wanted it to be, rather than being generic about to get what I wanted to say across in that manner. Because the people of Sri Lanka have been immensely supportive of all of us when we played. Sri Lankan cricketers have a strong sense of social duty. They understand the privilege that they have or they're afforded to represent their country and the peoples of their country. They understand the social context and the background of strife, struggle, good fortune, all the things that have been part and parcel of Sri Lankan life for the past 40 plus years. It's all kind of embedded in us, in the way we carry ourselves, in the way we play and what we play for. So that was kind of the core message in my speech, and I was very glad it was really well received. And I was, I was thinking about, the before and the after. I think I finished writing the conclusion about half an hour before I left for the speech. It was still being written, even on the day. And I'm glad it kind of stuck in people's minds, and they understood what it meant for me and so many others to be Sri Lankan and be Sri Lankan cricketers.
It's an amazing thing, and it's available to watch on YouTube. If anyone that hasn't seen it, I strongly suggest people go and watch it, because it's a very powerful piece of speaking. And I think it's true what you're saying about how important cricket is in Sri Lanka. I went to Sri Lanka a couple of years ago on a school tour with my son's school, and we went to places like Trinity and some of the other schools around there. Went to Gaul, went up to Kandy, which was an amazing place. And to a restaurant in Colombo. You should really go there. It's called Ministry of Crab. Really, really nice place.
Yeah, I mean, we have such a strong culture in our schools of sport, and wanting to produce all-round students. And cricket, even though I went to Trinity College in Kandy, as you visited there, and it was a rugby school primarily. But in the recent years, cricket has taken a huge turn for the better, and we've been constantly winning trophies at age group levels, especially at under 19, producing international cricketers. Matisha Patirana being one of the most recent ones, Lahiru Kumara as well, and so on and so forth. So Niroshan Dikwala. So we've managed to really turn our fortunes around, and most schools in Sri Lanka, you'll see the emphasis on sport and have that has a positive impact on children's development, their social skills, their educational skills. And it was lovely to be a part of that culture growing up, and we were forced to take part in so many activities in Sri Lanka through our schools, and it's really stood us all in good stead.
It is. It's the country is a huge example that we should all be following. Now, I know you're a busy man. I know you've got to get back to your professional duties at Lord's. It's been an absolute honour. It really has, Kumar, to talk to you, and many thanks for talking to me. And I wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you, Darren. Absolute pleasure. Take care.